Welcome everybody to this event. I'm sure my father will probably roll on his grave again if you'll hear this is an annual event. I'm sure my father would not like to be it even once. So we'll try to get out of the annual as soon as we can. From my perspective, 2 years was quite enough. I will gladly give it up in the notion of how much I miss him. So the last 36 hours were quite taxing on me, quite taxing on the organization, quite taxing on what we are. Every time we have to deal with this concept of what my father wants, what my father desired, and what the rabbi had envisioned for himself and for his organization, one had to spend the time contemplating that, and which we do. So when we talk about the greater strategy of the Steinsaltz world, or the greater orders or decisions made by the rabbi for his community, we can, first of all, we need to eliminate the first question. The first question the rabbi was facing when he was very, very young was about the existence of God. That he solved about the age 15, maybe 16. We have one document that he actually wrote his proof of the existence of God. We have one page out of the three. We're still looking for the other two. But he eliminated that question very early in his career, in the sense of like, that was not an issue. And not just it was not an issue, he used that as something that became the basic stepping stones for his work. Was the first lever in his ladder is the notion that is a God. And we're not here only to be spiritual in that sense, but it's also a practical and maybe even religious action to it. The struggle the rabbi faced in the early 60s and 70s was the struggle between two different beings, two different existences of what he was good at and what he wanted to do. The first and foremost was his ability to teach and to make complex terms simple, understandable, comprehensible, and in a sense, very usable. That was very much was done on a personal level. He used to travel around the country. He was part of the original Shalhevet, the Flame of God, the original movement that he created as a late teenager and young man. And then the other side of that, or maybe even the other side of the coin of the yin and yang of this existence, was the text. It seems to me, and it's also part of my conversation with him throughout my life with him, that he believed that in order to work with the souls, in order to bring the souls, in order to bind them, after you wake them up, which is a whole different problem by itself, how you wake up a soul, you have to bind it by the text. You have to bind it with the actual learning, actual knowledge of what we do. And I think that was the first and foremost decision that he made, again, in the early 60s, to move from being a master teacher in a public domain, a public level, going from literally from village to village, from kibbutz to kibbutz and teaching, to be something much more, eventually became more public by teaching through the text to make it accessible, available, and real. But the main reason was not because the text by itself is holy, but the text itself was a necessity, which he also believed in that too, was really about the fact that if you constantly have to struggle with somebody with the soul, you manage to awaken somebody's soul, in order to keep them in place, keep them in the structure of what he called neo-Hasidus, the new generation of Hasidus, you had to bring it to tie to the world. The Rabbi perspective, as I mentioned hundreds of thousands of times, From the rabbi perspective, the two, what seems to appear to be two contradictory or two sides, two part of the conundrum, God and the world were part of one existence. He believed that the entire purpose of a person was to bring what is in the physical world, what's in the physical realm, to bring it to fruition, that godliness will be part of it. Not that godliness will elevate it. It's not about elevation or denial or overcoming the physical. No, it's much more than that. It's making the physical, making the mundane part of the holiness. His dream, his desire was, and that again, what he told me, what he told many other people, was I don't want people to destroy secularism. I don't want people to become holier than thou. I want people to utilize everything we have around us and to bring the devotion of the God of Israel, the people of Israel, the Torah of Israel, with the world itself. And when you combine all of those four elements together, then you can start discussing, as we're going to see in the next few minutes, discuss the future of the big questions. Once the basic foundation is laid, there are four principles: God, the Torah of Israel, the world, and the people of Israel. When you bring all of those four elements together, they are the basic. All the questions can start much more properly, much more accurately from this basic perspective. That is what the rabbi finished understanding in a very, very young age. But without those core elements, he cannot function in his work, and he cannot really bring ability to people to bind the relationship, what they've been awakened by learning or by knowing him or by reflecting on something he wrote. He cannot bind them unless all those four elements are coming together. So I truly hope that all of us here will enjoy this night conversation with this lovely three sets of amazing speakers, who I'm sure will bring at least some kind of illumination to the soul, that I hope that the Steinsaltz Center on our side will be able to bind with our books, text, and app. Have a marvelous evening, and may my father Neshama will have great aliyah, and we should have also, not less, make our souls be elevated and illuminated. Thank you.